Today's story is a cautionary tale of heartbreak and sorrow. A completely avoidable tale of woe. Let's join the players now in the graveyard of hope. Alas, poor Densiflorum. I knew him well, internet people. A fellow of infinite beauty, of most excellent jest. And we have a sad, sorry event that took place, losing all those beautiful blooms that we are about to have. So we've got to understand a little bit about Dendrobium densiflorum and how to look after them so that we can all avoid this mishap. So Dendrobium densiflorum is another one of these hard cane dendrobiums with these quite tough leathery leaves that they get, and these leaves are on them for several years. They don't lose them like what some of those deciduous dendrobiums do. They keep these leaves for quite an extended period of time. And with these guys being spring flowering dendrobiums, very much like our Chrysotoxinum over here, we get flowers at much the same time. Often slightly later, just by a few weeks, than what will happen with the Chrysotoxinum. Often they'll be set a little bit later. But here ours has already set, and we landed up losing all of those flower spikes that had started to initiate. So why did we lose our flower spikes on the densiflorum when we didn't lose any on the Chrysotoxinum? And it's actually got a matter to do with that slightly different flowering time. But we'll get to that. Let's get to what initiates the flowers in these guys. With a lot of these hard cane dendrobiums, it's that temperature difference, that day-night temperature difference that causes this flower initiation. These guys also coming from Indochina, that whole big region from India through across Nepal, Bhutan, and into China. These guys come from a higher elevation than what some of the other dendrobiums come from. They come from elevations of about 1,000 to about 2,000 meters above sea level. And this means that they generally come from slightly cooler regions than what some of those other dendrobiums come from. So they should be able to withstand cooler temperatures. These guys generally don't mind temperatures in the evening during winter periods of between 5 and 6 degrees Celsius. In fact, generally that's what they're looking for. They're looking for those really cool evening temperatures during that winter period that will then rise up again during the daytime. So they get that big fluctuation in temperatures during that period, and this is what causes that flower initiation. They also do like to be slightly drier during this period. So this is often a period where there's not terribly much rain. These guys also come from areas where they're in generally evergreen forests, but they are known to be grown out on rocks as well. And what will happen with a lot of them is they'll get a lot of sun during the morning. And then as the sun rises higher, they get covered by a bit of shade. So these do like lots and lots of light. In fact, they will accept full sun conditions, but mostly during the morning. They don't particularly want hot midday sun because this will generally burn their leaves slightly. And then the daytime temperatures that they generally prefer in the winter period, as long as your daytime temperatures are around 15 or higher, they're going to be perfectly happy. In summer, they can take temperatures up to 35 degrees without any problems. They do like to have more moisture during those hot periods. So as long as you're watering them enough during that heat of spring and summer, you're going to be fine. But as soon as you start getting cool in winter, the colder it is, the drier you need to keep your orchid. If it starts getting too much water during those cold periods, then you start landing up with a few little problems. And we'll get to that with regards to the flowering as well soon. And the humidity levels of these guys, they are quite forgiving in their humidity levels. Anything from about 50% is generally okay for them. Of course, again, as your temperatures go up, so you'd like to increase your humidity levels so that they don't dehydrate too quickly. Like a lot of dendrobiums, they like that lots of moisture during that growing season. And that growing season is generally the warmer season again. These don't exactly go dormant during the cold or winter season, although they do slow down their growth and they don't like to be fed. Especially if you're starting to get cool again and you're withholding water, if you keep feeding them, you're going to land up with a buildup of salts. And these dendrobiums are particularly susceptible to salt buildups in their media. And that's what's going to happen, especially during those periods where you're keeping it drier, you're not flushing as often, and if you're still feeding, you're going to land up building up salts and you will burn all the roots of your orchid. During that winter period, withhold food completely, at least for that 1 or 2 months where you get those colder temperatures. Because that's all it's really going to need in winter is about a month or 2 months of that high temperature difference between your evenings and your daytime temperatures to ensure that you're going to get that bud formation on your orchids so that you can get all those flowers. And these guys, again, along with most other dendrobiums, they'll flower not only off the new canes that have matured in that season, but they'll flower off any of those old canes that are available on your plant as well. These guys can flower for several years continuously, if that's the right word, year after year, off the same canes. And that can give you some really beautiful mass displays of flowers on your plants. With these densiflorums, often you'll find you land up with generally between 3 and 5 leaves on each of these pseudobulbs, all clustered up towards the top of the pseudobulb. And then as they start aging, the bottom leaves of those will fall off first. They'll age first and then start dying off. But with these guys, we want to try and remember to try and keep as much leaf volume on your plant as possible. If you start losing too many leaves off your plant, it's going to start to struggle to bloom, because we really need all of this leaf volume to provide food and energy for the plant. Although you will get some photosynthesis happening through the pseudobulbs too, it's the leaves that are providing the majority of the energy for the plant. So if you start losing leaves, you're less and less likely to have flowers on your plant. And if you do happen to get all the leaves lost on your plant, it's going to take several years for it to look healthy again and for it to produce enough of those new pseudobulbs with the new leaves on top of it to then be able to perform at its best again. So you can set it back by a long way by either causing it to lose its leaves through dehydration or through overwatering it and rotting the roots and then causing those leaves to die off that way. And talking about rotting roots, these guys really need an excellent drained media. They need a media that's going to allow for lots of air movement through it and allow it to dry out quickly. So they like lots of moisture, but then they want to dry out again quite quickly afterwards. So here you'll notice the pot that it is in is quite a large pot for the size plant it is, but you'll notice that it is actually quite a shallow pot. And here we've got lots of lacquer balls and some charcoal with a bit of bark. This is all to allow for that fast draining, and the bark helps maintain a little bit of moisture so that the humidity levels in and around the pot are high enough to keep the plant happy. Also, with the pot being so shallow, it allows for that air movement to get all the way through to the base of the pot and dry out the media at the base all the way through so that we're not landing up with soggy areas inside the pot that then can then start causing problems for your plant. Often people will keep their dendrobiums in pots that are seemingly way too small for their orchids, and this is all to make sure that you're getting that air movement through the pot all the way through so that the entire media can dry out, so that we're not holding too much moisture. Also allow for that air movement in, and that way the roots won't suffocate. So this is just another way of getting the same idea but in a slightly bigger pot, so that I could keep growing this orchid in the same pot for longer, since I have used some organic material, which is that bark, which will decompose over time. So if you are able to maintain your watering and your humidity levels in and around the roots with purely an inorganic media, it's probably going to be better for the plant in the long run, because that way you may not need to repot it as frequently, because these guys really don't like their roots being disturbed too much. They are part of the dendrobiums that you can find it difficult to propagate from by taking divisions. It is possible, but you have to be really vigilant in looking after them so that you can make sure that they are growing their roots at the right time, so you can keep your plant healthy. Because if you're taking the cuttings at the wrong time and all the roots die, you may not get the new growth coming out, and that may not set roots. So you land up with a plant that's purely struggling to survive off its back bulbs until those dry out. You may then eventually find yourself lucky and get a kiki coming off one of those pseudobulbs, but that's not always going to happen. So it appears there are lots of cautionary tales with Dendrobium densiflorum. But let's get to the one that happened here. We started getting all of our flower spikes coming on our plant, and we've lost all of them. Not a single one that is maturing and opening up to its full potential. They're all rotting and dying off. And the reason that this has happened is because they were coming into bloom just 2 weeks after our chrysotoxinum, and we've all seen how beautiful that's worked out. I'd brought them inside in time, and they haven't had the 2 week solid rain that we've been having here. We've had cold, wet, rainy weather, and this guy I thought was going to be okay sitting out there, but with us having the flu and me not going out and watching it, what happened now is we've landed up with a fungal infection. We've got Cercospora, which has encompassed a lot of the leaf volume now, and we've got flower blights. It looks like we've even got a little bit of downy mildew that's taken this other bloom or this bud over here, and this whole spike here has just rotted and died. It doesn't matter how much air movement this was getting outside, because we were getting constant misty rain for these 2 weeks. Our poor plant didn't get a chance to dry out enough. So if I had have brought this in at the same point that I had brought these ones in, I would have been able to keep these flower spikes alive, and we could have had a beautiful display out of them too. We do have a couple of large swellings on some of these pseudobulbs, which means I could still, if I look after this plant well, possibly get a flower spike or two coming out before the end of the flowering season has finished, and hopefully we can get that to happen. If it happens, we'll be sure to keep everyone informed as to how it's going. But even though we've lost all of these blooms, as long as I can keep those day and night temperatures with enough of a fluctuation for these swellings to mature into flower buds or flower spikes, but as long as I can keep the conditions right for this to flower, I can get these swellings to mature into flower spikes, and we can still get some flowers out of it. So it's not completely lost just yet, but we have lost the majority of it, and now I have to treat my plant to ensure that these fungal spots are treated properly so that they don't mature any further. Here we can see how we've landed up with these little white speckles. They almost look like they are the initial stages of scale, but in fact they're not. You can't wipe them off. You can't get isopropyl alcohol and just wipe off the little spots. They're actually, if you want to call it eaten, they're little eaten through microdots. So it's really where the flesh of the leaf has been eaten through to such a thin point that it's made the flesh of the leaf itself look white. And then what's going to slowly happen is those dots will sort of start yellowing off, getting like a halo around them, and they'll die and blacken in the middle, and then slowly we'll land up with these black spots on our orchid leaf. And remember, with these guys, we want to try and keep as much of that leaf volume on as possible, so we need to treat this as quickly as possible to ensure that we get rid of all of this fungus so that we don't have to cut off too much of the leaf volume here. We want to be able to treat it so that we can still keep as much leaf volume as possible, although some of the leaves are going to be ugly from now on, but at least they'll still do their job till they yellow and die off by themselves. At this point here, still a neem oil will probably be a successful treatment, but I'm going to use a systemic fungicide too, just in case there's anything else that has settled in anywhere, and I can be sure that I've treated this completely. And in about 2 weeks again, I'll give it another little spray with neem oil to stop any further infections that might have taken place from spores that might still have been sitting around. So this is just going to be a little bit of a treatment regime happening to this guy, and with all the other orchids that I have sitting out in the rain over this period, I'm going to need to get out and treat them all soon. And for any further identification on fungal and fungal problems, check out that Buy Me a Coffee link down below. Ed posts up a lot of articles there all the time. That should be your go-to resource to help you treat your orchids for any problems that you may be finding. And thank you for watching. If you found any of this information helpful, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and that notification bell, bing bong, to be notified of all our upcoming content so you don't miss out on a thing. Help us grow as we help your orchids grow.